Hi, I'm Abby, and I recently graduated from UT, where I studied anthropology, linguistics, and museum studies. I really love education and doing research and reading about research, and I think it's really important, but I think it can also be really boring and annoyingly complex. So I wanted to create this channel, Abstracts by Abby, to make the language of academic articles more accessible to the general public. I want to make them fun, short little videos where I explain and break down like the abstract, the little chunk of writing where it explains like the intent and findings of the article, explain why I think that's cool and important, and kind of give more examples from the article, draw them out so that you don't have to go through all of the vocabulary and stuff. I want you to be able to read these articles being more confident if you're interested in the topics. So yeah, thank you for being here, and let's learn stuff together. In this first video, I will be exploring the linguistic phenomenon of expletive infixation, which is where you put a curse word inside of another word. So for example, abso-fucking-lutely, or I've had a bloody enough for my British audience. The article that we will be deciphering today on this topic is called Prosodic Structure and Expletive Infixation by John McCarthy, published by the Linguistic Society of America in 1982. I will cite this in the description, and I will also cite the Wikipedia articles that I used to understand the topic, because in this space, Wikipedia is a valid source, baby. Get into it! Prosodic structure and expletive infixation is an analysis of English expletive infixation, as in fan-fucking-tastic, in terms of metrical theory of prosody, is presented. It is shown that the major environment for expletive infixation, immediately before a stressed syllable, follows from independently motivated characteristics of this theory. Further support for this metrical theory is adduced from infixation in words with dactylic stress alternation and with internal stress neutral junctures, and from the subordination of stress in forms after infixation. So, prosody is the pattern of stress and intonation, or the rise and fall of speech in language, which I do a lot of when I'm nervous because I have a very sing-songy voice. Prosodic structure then is the organization of syllables by feet, and feet are just the rhythmic measurement where one syllable is more prominent than another. So that and expletive infixation, which I've given you examples of, is what the article is about. So then metrical theory of prosody is a linguistic analysis guided by the patterns of stress as opposed to morphology. So in the article, he presents morphology as one explanation of why we insert expletives where we do in words, and then he kind of disproves that because the analysis prefers metrical theory, which has to do with the patterns of stress as opposed to the shapes and sounds within the words. So basically all linguistics research is organized this way. They present a phenomenon and a potential explanation for it, sometimes referring to that proposed explanation for it as a rule. And then they cleverly prove their original idea wrong to keep you on your toes and explain why it doesn't cover all of the possible data. They present this data that doesn't sound right to native speakers with an asterisk. For example, something that wouldn't sound right is fant-fucking-astic or fa-fucking-tastic. And then they figure out why it's wrong. Then they fix the rule and make sure it captures all of the new data and the old data. In this article, they present a rule that indicates that the infix must immediately precede the primary stress and be preceded somewhere in the word by tertiary stress. They show examples that are exempt from this analysis, and then the author settles that the infix can only occur at the edge of a foot. So I'll show you a little diagram of that. So words that are monosyllabic, in this case, and do not contain multiple feet cannot insert an expletive within them. So my name is like 1 foot Abby. Couldn't be like ab fucking B. Or monosyllabic like lip. You can't just be like fucking ip. Lip fucking ip. Yeah, you can't do it. It's hard and you can't do it because it's wrong. So here's the foot metrical analysis breakdown thing. As you can see in unbelievable and irresponsible, the syllables are broken down into, I should have figured out what the Greek letters were. That thing. That's what marks the syllables. And then they're more broadly categorized into feet, which are the little Greek E syllable thing. And so what we know is that it has to occur, the infix has to occur at a foot boundary. So this un is a foot boundary between un and believable. So you do unfucking believable. And then irresponsible, the foot boundary does not occur between ear and re. It occurs between irre and sponsible. So you do like irre-fucking-sponsible. This quote I felt like kind of succinctly explained like why it's not by word shape, so like unfucking believable and fucking responsible. You have it in different places, so it's not like, oh, after the first syllable you can insert it. So yeah, it's a bit of a wordy article, as are most academic papers, and it's a little bit confusing still to me, but I think the coolest concept of it is, like, of the whole process, is that expletive infixation is a productive process, meaning that people are still creating new combinations that are grammatically acceptable. So grammatical is not as in like you can use it in your high school English paper, it's totally fine. It means like it's an allowable occurrence. Like you would hear it and be like, yeah, like that makes sense. I understand what you're saying. It wouldn't sound off. Basically, once you know how to curse, you can create these combinations pretty intuitively because you subconsciously understand the metrical patterns of the language that you speak and like what sounds right and what sounds wrong, which is just so cool. Like, you can be creative with language because you get it. It's like you understand how to use it. You don't have to memorize every word that works and every word that doesn't work. You intuitively know what works and what doesn't work, and it's so cool.